All right, moving on here into the effects menu, we come up to the Gapper Snipper effect. Gapper Snipper effect within SoundForge is a bit odd, very peculiar actually. And part of it is because of the effects it produces, but it's kind of the way it does it. It's sort of doing sort of a tremolo, warble kind of effect, but the way it does it is by actually physically either taking parts of your audio away or adding parts in. And it actually can get some pretty cool effects. The upside is the cool effects. The downside is that it actually changes the duration of your file depending upon the how much of the effect you apply. So you've kind of got to be careful of that. You can find a cool effect that you like here and you apply it to your file, but then all of a sudden your file isn't the same length that it was before. It's not, it's not the end of the world. You could always go back into the time stretch and fix that. But let's take a look. All right. For illustration purposes on this one, we're going to use just one of the mono sample VO tracks I've done here. Okay, here's some sample VO. And let's go up to the effects, Gapper Snipper. And what we're presented with is the menu here where we have a choice of the Gapper, which is inserting additional audio. So as a consequence, when we apply this effect, it's going to make our audio file longer overall, again, depending upon how much of the effect we apply. Or the snipper, which is literally what it says. It's cutting parts out. It's actually removing parts of our audio. And again, depending upon the severity of how we set the settings, it's going to make our file shorter. So let's preview something here. Okay, here's some samples, right? Some of the various cool effects within. So this is the frequency, in other words, the frequency range at what it's cutting out. And here's the length of one event. So you can see as I increase this, it slows it down substantially. And this way, it makes it much shorter, much more warbly. Video that I'm using just to illustrate some of the various cool effects. Okay, get some very strange stuff with this. One of the things you can do also is, each event and the length of the event, in this case is like, 322 milliseconds. Depending upon, especially if you get into the larger numbers here, you may want to increase this or decrease this fade edges of each event. It's primarily to avoid, distortion or popping and crackling at the end of every single event that you put in there. It's got, again, as usual, has some cool presets. We've got, here's a chopper, and again, this is one of the Gapper effects. Okay, here's some sample video that I'm using just to illustrate. Okay, here's some another version of that. I'm using. Here's a couple of distorted ones. Still using the Gapper, but you notice the frequency is all the way pegged out here, and the length of event is almost like non-existent. Very strange. This one increases the length and decreases it a little bit. It's almost understandable. And then you've got some snippers. And you can hear, because it's speeding it up, it's obviously if I apply this one, it's going to make my file a lot shorter. So there you go. Frankly, if I think, I haven't done this personally, but I think that if you were to very carefully apply this filter, you could almost achieve some of the results that you hear on those guys at the end of commercials where they're giving you all the fine print stuff about your mortgage rate will be 20% higher than if you default on one payment and blah, 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 and, no animals were harmed in the making of this car commercial kind of thing. You could use this to kind of literally crunch it down so that it's as fast as possible and yet still intelligible.